Hello everybody, welcome to a new video with me. I hope you're doing very well. In this video, I'm going to teach you different ways to respond to thank you instead of using the traditional you're welcome. Now, I know you're used to saying you're welcome. That's the first thing we learn in school. And typically what happens is you learn something, you start using it, and you get comfortable using it. But the problem with you're welcome is that in certain contexts, there are better options. In casual settings, in professional settings, or maybe if you wanted to just sound a little bit more cool and more native-like, a bit more advanced, these are the phrases that I suggest that you use instead. Now, quick note just before we start this video, if you want to improve your speaking fluency and your English pronunciation, I have a fantastic surprise for you at the end of this video. So stay tuned, stay put, and I will give that to you at the end of this video. For now, let's get started with the phrases. Now, the first phrase you can use, rather than saying you're welcome, is a very common phrase. It's very typical. It's highly used, especially in casual settings with friends, family, and typically in Australia. Because in Australia, people are very casual, very familiar, very relaxed. I actually used to live in Australia, in Melbourne, and I had this friend, and she was the kindest, or she still is my friend. But she was the kindest. I remember she always bought me coffee. And she would come home to my house and she would give me the coffee. And I was always very thankful and say, hey, thank you so much. That's so nice. And she would respond, no worries. No worries is a very typical response rather than using you're welcome, because it's more casual, it's more native-like, it's a little bit cooler. In Australia, they typically say, no worries, mate. The next phrases are very common in the US, in the United States. And I remember I was in Miami just a couple of months ago, and I was staying at this hotel in downtown Miami. And I remember the receptionist there. It was a bit older man, but I remember him so much because he was very American, very confident, very loud, very strong, great posture. And so when I asked him questions, I needed help, I was like, excuse me, do you know where the parking lot is? Or I remember I asked, do you know where the Uber comes so I can take an Uber? And he would say, yes, it's over there, right there, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, on the third floor, no worries, you just take the elevator up here, you go to the third floor, it's right there. And I would say, thank you so much for your help. And he would say, sure, or for sure, sure, no problem. No problem, sure, for sure. Very American ways to respond to thank you. Instead of saying you're welcome, the next phrase here is very British from the UK with a special accent. And it's very British because it's very polite, and people in the UK are typically very polite. And I remember I was in London a few years ago with a couple of friends. We went there for a weekend to drink beer and party. And I remember we stayed at this place in Chelsea, and we would go out and we needed help. We were walking in circles trying to find a bar, I think, or a restaurant. And we saw this person on a bicycle passing through. And we were like, guys, we have to stop this person. We need to ask for help. And I remember I literally tried to pull him over and say, hey, please help. And so he stopped with his bike. We asked him questions and he would stand there for 2 minutes and give us advice, give us help. He would tell us where this restaurant were. And he was so kind and just did so many extra things that we didn't expect. And so we said, thank you so much for your help. That was very nice of you. And he would say, don't mention it. Don't mention it is a very nice response to thank you. It can be used instead of you're welcome as a more polite way, or if you want to spice it up or just sound a little nicer in general. Now, moving on to the next phrase. This one is perfect to say to a friend. Typically, when you've done something that requires a little bit of effort, maybe you've helped your friend, maybe you have You know, maybe your friend is going through a bad time and you've listened to your friend. Maybe you've done something that requires a little bit of effort and time from your side to help your friend. Then this one is perfect. I remember this was very recently. We rented a house in Sweden, in the woods. In the middle of Sweden, we rented a nice little house with me and my friends to celebrate one of my friend's 30th birthday parties. And I paid for the house, I paid for it, and the other guys paid for food and the other things, but I paid for the house, and so I got the master's bedroom. They were like, Kalle, you paid for the house, you can get the master's bedroom. And I was like, okay, nice. Or maybe I said, hey, I paid for the house, I want the master's bedroom. I don't remember which way it was, but I got the master's bedroom anyways. And I remember at this party, one of my best friends, he was hooking up with a girl. Very nice girl, and they were hooking up, they were kissing, and so it got late, and I said to my friend, hey buddy, you take the master's bedroom, and I'll go sleep in the bunk bed. So I gave away my master's bedroom to him and his girl, and I went to sleep in the bunk bed. And he said, man, thank you so much, I really appreciate you doing that. And when he said that, I responded with, I know you do the same for me. I know you do the same for me. You'd is you would. I know you would do the same for me, right? I know that if the case was different, I know that if the situation had been the other way around, he would have done the same for me. I know he would have done the same for me, so that's what I said. Hey man, no worries, don't mention it. I know you do the same for me. Now, next one, here's a very, very common one. And a couple of years ago, here's another story, by the way, I love telling stories. I had a new job, and I was sitting at this new job with my coworker. And my coworker was a very, very different kind of guy, special kind of guy, very smart, but he hated to be disturbed. He did not want anyone to talk to him while he was working. And so what he did was he put on this bandana. So he put on a bandana, and when he put that on, it was like a signal to everyone in the office, don't talk to me, I'm working, right? And so he had the bandana on, and I was new, I really needed help with something. And so I asked him, hey man, sorry to disturb you, but could you please help me with this work thing? And so he was like, okay, you're new, I'll help you. He came along and he helped me. And then I realized what he helped me with was very, very easy. It was very trivial. It was something that I probably should have known how to do. And so I got a bit embarrassed and I said, hey man, thank you so much. You shouldn't have had to do that. Thank you so much. And he responded, happy to help. Happy to help. Happy to help. Was the way he responded. Happy to help, I'm happy to help you. Instead of saying you're welcome, he said, happy to help. But he said it sarcastically, right? Because in reality, he wasn't happy to help. He wanted to sit undisturbed, working, right? So that's another phrase you can use. Instead of you're welcome, I'm happy to help. The last phrase, before I go into more formal phrases or more business phrases or school phrases, this one is also very good and it's very polite. You can use this if you want to sound nice, if you want to sound polite. And here's another story. I invited my friends from Sweden to Cancun, Mexico. My friends from Sweden have never been to Mexico or Colombia or Latin America. In Sweden, people think Latin America is like this big, huge desert where people shoot each other and stuff. So obviously we need to convince them or show them that that's not the case, right? We need to open their eyes. So I said, guys, you should come to Cancun. Let's have a good time. Come over here, I'll invite you. So I invited my best friends over to Cancun for a week, and I rented a beautiful house in which we stayed for about a week. And as a thank you, my friends brought me 1 kilo of Swedish candy. Swedish candy is the absolute best candy in the entire world. And I hadn't been home for many, many months. So obviously that was a super nice gesture. And so I said, guys, thank you so much. I'm gonna eat this candy in 2 days, literally. Now, when I said thank you to them, rather than responding with, you're welcome, they chose a smarter or a better way? And they said, it's the least we could do. It's the least we could do. And what they're referring to is that obviously it took a lot of effort and some money to bring them over to Cancun and rent the house, and they gave me candy, so it was small in comparison. For me, it was a big gesture, I really liked it. For them, it was the least we could do. Another version of this is, it was nothing. It was nothing. No, it was nothing. Very polite, very good phrase that you can use as well. Now, before I jump into some more formal ways to respond to thank you, I have a question for you. What do you think about me speaking in English in these videos? Do you prefer that I speak in English so that you can practice? Or do you prefer me to speak in your own language? Let me know in the comments below. What do you prefer, English or your language? Now, here are two very, very formal ways to say you're welcome. Rather than saying you're welcome, you can use these two. The first one is much obliged. Much obliged. It's a very formal and very, very polite way to respond. Has to be used with care so you don't sound sarcastic if that's not your intention. So, for example, it could be used in a setting where maybe your boss has done a lot of things for you. Your boss has helped you, trained you, given you all these equipment to use at work, and so you are in debt to your boss, maybe. But now you did a favor for your boss. You helped out your boss with a business-related thing. And so the boss says, thanks, man, or thank you. And now you respond, much obliged. Much obliged, because much obliged comes from, I'm very much obliged to you. To be obliged to someone means to be legally or morally bound to someone. So you've been technically morally bound to your boss since your boss has been helping you for a long time, and now you're starting to repay and you say, hey, much obliged. Another way to say you're welcome in a very formal way, in a very nice and polite and educated way, is rather than saying you're welcome, you say you're most welcome. You're most welcome. Now, I don't suggest you use this without planning. I typically use this in emails, and typically if I have actually done something that they did not expect me to do, that was a lot of effort from me, and they should be thanking me. Like, they really should be thanking me. And then if they say thank you, I say, you're most welcome. You're most welcome. I know I did something of high value. I know I really helped them. So I said, hey, you're most welcome. You're most welcome. Or you're very welcome. You're very welcome. Or you're most welcome. Now, just be careful to use that phrase if you haven't actually done something extra, because then it might sound a little bit rude, a little bit sarcastic, like who's this douchebag? But anyhow, those are the phrases you can use instead of saying you're welcome, to sound more native-like, to sound more casual, to be more appropriate around friends and family and new people you meet who are native English speaker. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Your like and your subscription to the channel costs you nothing, but it really helps me to spread the word and help more people like you improve their English and become fluent. Now, I would like to help you improve your pronunciation. Remember in the beginning of the video I said, hey, there's a surprise at the end. This is the surprise. Oh, yeah! Now, English pronunciation. So important that you become good at pronunciation. I am not a native English speaker. I'm from Sweden, as you maybe know. And so having a good English pronunciation has helped me in so many ways, and I know it's gonna help you too. There are basically 3 main benefits that are going to really help elevate your English. Number 1, when you improve your pronunciation, the fluency in your conversations increase. Why? Because when you have better pronunciation, people understand you better. Right? It's very common that native speakers in conversations with new English learners don't really hear what you say because your pronunciation is poor. If you have good pronunciation, you improve the fluency in your conversations because the other person can hear you better. Second, improving your pronunciation actually improves your listening comprehension. Why? Because when you improve your pronunciation, you become good at producing different sounds. And when you can produce different sounds, like the TH, for example, then you also become better at recognizing those sounds when you hear them. So when someone says the word thought, they don't hear fought, an F, or taught, a T, which are completely different words. They actually hear thought. Their listening improves and their comprehension improves, and therefore their fluency also improves. And number 3, when you improve your pronunciation, which is what I'm gonna help you do right here, you improve your confidence. You get so much more confident in speaking English because you know that people won't judge you. You know that they will understand what you're saying. You know, everyone will accept that you have poor grammar or a limited vocabulary. I have a very limited vocabulary in English and in Spanish because my pronunciation is very good. And here are the good news. It is actually super easy to improve your pronunciation, something that can happen. Compared to improving your vocabulary or your listening or your speaking, improving your pronunciation is easy and fast. And the best way to do it, in my experience, is through the exercise called shadowing. And I actually have a video here on YouTube in which I do this exact shadowing exercise with you when you watch this video. And here are what a couple of other students, just like you, have said about this very video. Ho ho ho, awesome! I did the exercise and my pronunciation improved a ton. But not only that, my speaking fluency as well. Jesus here said, there was a very notable difference in my pronunciation. It's evident, it really works. Thanks for such an interactive exercise. And Juan here says, it seems like magic. My pronunciation improved as if I had gone through 20 years of English classes. Thank you, Kale. Now, isn't that cool? Isn't that amazing? Wouldn't you want to improve your pronunciation like that as well by just watching one simple video that's shorter than 20 minutes? So, if you want to watch this video as well, you have to click here on the screen right now. The video is gonna pop up here in any second now, and the only thing you have to do is click on it. Okay, and I'll see you there. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, go!